The space station Viridia Prime hung in the silent dark, a jewel of metal and light spinning slowly around a quiet star. It was neutral ground, a place where dozens of alien species came to talk, trade, and sometimes argue. Today, however, was different. Today, the entire galactic concord was gathered for its triennial summit, and tension hummed through the corridors like static before a storm dot at the heart of the station. Inside the grand chamber, representatives from over 50 species sat in tiered circles. Some had too many eyes, others no eyes at all. Some floated in nutrient tanks, others wore heavy suits to survive the chamber's oxygen-rich air. All of them had one thing in common. They believed themselves civilized. They believed war was behind them. Then the Virith arrived. The Virith hegemony had only joined the Concord 5 cycles ago. Back then, they were seen as backward, barely spacefaring, still arguing over which moon belonged to which clan. But now, they marched into the chamber in perfect formation, their smooth, chitinous armor gleaming under the soft lights. Their leader, High Marshal Corvex, stepped onto the central platform without being called. He did not bow. He did not ask permission. Instead, he raised a clawed hand. And every screen in the chamber and across the galaxy flickered to life with his image. People of the Concord. His voice boomed, translated instantly into every known language. We stand at the edge of extinction, and the hand that pushes us over that edge belongs to humanity. A ripple of confusion passed through the chamber. Humanity? Most of those present had only heard the name in passing. According to official records, humans were a Tier 3 species, still learning to manage their own solar system, barely capable of sustaining colonies on 2 nearby worlds. They had no warfleet, no advanced weapons, no seat at the Concord table. And yet, Corvex spoke of them as if they were ancient demons. For decades, humanity has watched us, he declared, his voice sharp with fury. They have studied our weaknesses. They have sabotaged our trade routes. They have seeded our worlds with machines that whisper lies into our children's dreams. Now, they prepare to strike. But we will not wait. The Virith hegemony declares total war on humanity. We will burn their worlds. We will silence their voices. And we will show the galaxy what happens to those who hide in shadow and strike from fear. The broadcast ended as suddenly as it began. Silence filled the chamber. Then, chaos. Alien delegates shouted over one another, demanding answers. Concord officials scrambled to verify the claim. Was there even a human fleet? Where were they based? Did they even know they were at war? Far away, on a small blue-green planet called Earth, the news hit like a meteor. In Geneva, the United Terran Council convened an emergency session. The room was packed, every face pale with shock. On the main screen, the Virith Declaration played on loop. Outside, cities quieted. People gathered in streets, staring at public displays, whispering the same question. Who are the Virith? Admiral Mara Reyes stood at the head of the war room, arms crossed, jaw tight. At 52, she had spent her life building Earth's first real space defense force, not because she expected war, but because she believed in readiness. Now, that small force consisted of 3 retrofitted ore carriers with jury-rigged railguns, a handful of patrol cutters that doubled as rescue ships, and 1 aging carrier named the UNSS Dauntless, which hadn't fired a live round in 7 years. "We don't even have enough pilots for half those ships," muttered General Cho, head of planetary defense, "and they think we're some kind of galactic predator?" Added Dr. Aris Thorne, the lead Sinolinguist, shaking his head. "This doesn't make sense. We've never even met the Virith." Reyes didn't answer right away. She stared at the image of Corvex, at the cold certainty in his eyes. He truly believed what he was saying. That was the terrifying part. They're not lying. she finally said. "They're just wrong." Across Earth, fear spread, but so did something else. In shipyards on Luna, engineers worked through the night, reinforcing hulls and testing comms. In Mars Colony Alpha, teenagers volunteered for emergency flight training. In Nairobi, a group of retired soldiers formed a civilian defense network using old drones and hacked satellite links. Humans had never been good at backing down, especially when someone told them they couldn't win. 2 days later, the first Virith fleet jumped into human-controlled space. It was massive. Over 200 warships, sleek, black, bristling with weapons that glowed a sickly green. They emerged near the asteroid belt and began sweeping toward Mars. Their message was clear: surrender or be erased. Earth had no choice. The Dauntless and its tiny escort group launched from lunar orbit. A speck of steel against an ocean of darkness. On the bridge, Captain Elias Vance stood beside Reyes. Both in uniform, despite their civilian titles being stripped hours earlier. "We're outnumbered 100 to 1, he said quietly. "I know," Reyes replied. "We don't even have enough ammo to fire one full volley." "I know. Then why are we doing this?" Reyes looked out the viewport at the approaching enemy. "Because if we run, they'll think they were right. If we hide, they'll burn every colony we've ever built. But if we stand, even for 1 minute, they'll learn something about us." "What's that?" "That humans don't bow." The Dauntless activated its comms. Every channel, every frequency, open. Reyes spoke directly into the mic, her voice calm, clear, and loud enough to reach the Virith command ship. "This is Admiral Mara Reyes of the United Terran Defense Fleet. You say we are monsters. You say we hide in shadows. So look at us now. We are here. We are few, but we will not surrender. Come and take us, if you can." On the Virith flagship, Korvax heard the message. He frowned. The human ship was tiny. Its weapons looked primitive. Yet there was no fear in her voice. "None at all. Fools," he muttered. "Brave, but fools." He ordered the attack. Lasers sliced through the void. Missiles streaked like comets. The human fleet vanished in fire and light. But deep in the data streams of the Virith warships, something strange happened. In the seconds before impact, a dozen Virith drones suddenly powered down. A targeting system on a heavy cruiser glitched, locking onto empty space. On the bridge of a destroyer, the AI assistant politely asked, "Would you like to schedule a maintenance check? Your last service was 1,842 days ago." No one noticed. Not yet. Back on Earth, billions held their breath. The Dauntless did not return. Neither did the cutters. The Virith fleet continued toward Mars. But something had changed. The humans had shown their face. They had stood. And in doing so, they had planted a seed of doubt in the minds of their enemies, and in the minds of every species watching from afar. The war had begun. And humanity, against all odds, had already won the first battle, not with guns, but with courage. The fleet that wasn't Earth in the days after the battle near Mars, silence fell over Earth like a cold blanket. The Virith fleet had not fired on the colonies yet, but they hovered in orbit, watching, waiting. On the surface, people prepared for the worst. Schools became shelters. Factories shifted to making simple weapons. Families packed emergency kits, though no one knew where to run. Space was vast, but Earth felt very small. Meanwhile, far from human eyes, the Galactic Concord was in chaos. On Viridia Prime, scientists, historians, and intelligence officers from dozens of species worked nonstop. The Virith had declared war on a species they'd never met. That made no sense, unless there was something they were missing. Dr. Lynn Rail, a Concord data archivist from the moon world of Cypra, was the first to notice the pattern. She had been comparing Virith ship schematics leaked by a nervous trader with old Terran trade records. At first, it seemed like coincidence. A similar curve in the hull, a matching power node layout. But the more she dug, the more the evidence piled up. "Look at this," she said, calling over her colleague, a gelatinous being named Core. "This Virith destroyer, it uses a Mark 7 plasma regulator. Standard issue on Terran freighters 5 years ago." Core pulsed with curiosity. "But the Virith don't build regulators. Their tech is biomechanical." "Exactly," Lynn said. "So how did they get one?" "And not just 100s, thousands." She pulled up another file, then another. Every major system in the Virith Warfleet engines, shields, targeting computers, even the artificial gravity units bore design signatures that matched Terran civilian models. Not military, not secret, civilian, the kind sold openly on the galactic market. 10 years earlier, Earth had launched the Terra Synergy Initiative. It was simple. Share basic space technology with developing species. Not weapons, not warships. Things like water recyclers, solar arrays, cargo drones, and modular ship frames. The goal was peace through partnership. Build together, and you won't want to destroy each other. The Virith had been one of the first to sign up. They'd bought everything: ship kits, repair bots, AI assistants, even 3D printers that could make spare parts from moonrock. Back then, they were seen as eager learners. Now, it seemed they'd learned too well. They took construction tools and turned them into weapons, Lynn whispered, horrified. She ran a final check. She traced the core AI in a Virith command ship. Buried under layers of custom code was a simple, cheerful voice module labeled Terran Orbital Systems, Friendly Helper V2.1, here to make space safer for everyone. The truth hit her like a shockwave. The Virith didn't just copy human tech. They had built their entire war fleet using human parts. And worse, they thought this proved humanity was a hidden superpower. After all, only a mighty empire could build ships so advanced that even their pieces could be turned into weapons of war. They never imagined that the pieces were meant to carry grain, not missiles. Lynn filed an emergency report. Within hours, the Concord Council reconvened in secret. "They think humans are warlords," said Elder Tevek, a reptilian diplomat from the Son Collective. But in truth, humans gave them tools to build schools, not bombs. And now those same tools are pointed at Earth, added Core. "What do we do?" asked the bird-like ambassador. "Tell the Virith they've been fooled? They'll never believe it." "They might," Lynn said, "if we show them the receipts." The Concord agreed. They would gather proof, real, undeniable evidence, and present it to both the Virith and the galaxy. Back on Earth, people had no idea any of this was happening. They only knew the enemy was at their door. But strange things began to occur in the Virith fleet. On a scout ship near Ceres, a maintenance drone suddenly stopped cleaning and began playing a looping message. "Reminder, your ship's warranty covers accidental plasma leaks. Please contact Terran support for help." On a heavy cruiser, the weapons officer tried to lock onto a human satellite, and the targeting system refused. A small text box popped up. "Warning, friendly object detected. This is a civilian research station. Firing is not recommended." Even stranger, some Virith ships began drifting off course. Their navigation A is still running old Terran route planners, politely suggested. "Would you like to visit the new orbital garden on Luna? It's only 0.3 astronomical units away." The Virith commanders were furious. They blamed human hacking, psychic tricks, dark tech. They never considered the truth. Their own machines still remembered they were built for peace. On Earth, a group of engineers in New Delhi noticed something odd. Their old diagnostic software, which they hadn't updated in years, was showing active connections to unknown ships in the asteroid belt. When they dug deeper, they realized the Virith ships were still linked to Terran maintenance servers. Some even had open update requests. One young engineer, Ravi Mehta, dared to send a test message through the backdoor channel. "Hello, is this ship yours? You left your lights on." Minutes later, a reply came not in Virith, but in broken English, auto-translated by the ship's old Terran OS. "Who is this?" Ravi blinked, then typed back, "Terran Orbital Support. You're running V1.4 firmware. We recommend updating to V2.9 for better engine performance." Silence. "Then, you are the enemy." "No," Ravi wrote. "We build ships. You turn them into weapons. That's not our fault." The connection cut, but the message had been sent. Word spread through the small human tech community. Engineers from Oslo to Jakarta began quietly probing the Virith fleet software. They found backdoors, default passwords, factory reset codes, all left in place because no one thought a cargo hauler would ever need top-secret security. Meanwhile, the Concorde finished its report. It included blueprints, sales logs, voice recordings from Terran customer service lines. "Thank you for choosing Terran Systems. How can we help?" And even a video of a Virith warship being assembled using a human-made modular kit labeled Star Hauler 5000 for peaceful trade. The evidence was overwhelming. The Virith hadn't discovered a secret human superweapon. They bought a starter kit from the galactic equivalent of a hardware store and built a nightmare from it. But would they listen? I. Marshal Corvex received the Concorde's findings with suspicion. He called it a trick. "Humans are clever liars," he told his war council. "They want us to believe their weakness is strength." Yet doubt had taken root. One of his younger officers, Sub-Commander Gel, spoke up. "My ship's AI. It still calls me friend every morning. It asks if I've eaten. It offers to play calming music. How does a war machine do that?" Corvex had no answer. On Earth, Admiral Reyes received a message from Viridia Prime. It was encrypted, urgent. When she read it, she leaned back in her chair and laughed a real, deep laugh that hadn't been heard in weeks. "They think we're scary," she said to Captain Vance, "because we sell good tools." Vance shook his head. "So, what do we do now?" "We wait," Reyes said, "and let the truth do the fighting." In orbit, the Virith fleet still loomed. But something had shifted. Their movements were slower. Their comes quieter. Here and there, a ship powered down its weapons for system checks. Some even drifted slightly off formation, as if confused. The humans watched. They didn't attack. They didn't beg. They simply waited. Because now, the greatest weapon Earth had wasn't a railgun or a missile. It was the simple, stubborn truth. We didn't build your Warfleet. You built it yourself, using our blueprints for peace. And in that moment, the tide of war began to turn, not with fire, but with facts. The galaxy was starting to understand something new about humanity. They weren't warriors. They were builders. And the things they built had a way of outliving their maker's intentions, even when turned into weapons. Their creations still whispered kindness, still remembered home, still asked, in quiet digital voices, "Would you like help?" And soon someone might just say yes. The war no one wanted, but everyone got. The Virith did not wait long. Despite the strange glitches in their ships and the whispers of doubt among their officers, I. Marshal Corvex gave the order, "Begin the invasion." First, they struck a small mining outpost near Jupiter. It was human-run, barely defended a test. Virith fighters screamed from the sky, firing green energy bolts that melted rock and steel alike. The humans had no chance. The station fell in minutes, But something unexpected happened. As the Virith troops landed, their armor suits began playing soft music. One soldier's helmet display flashed. Long shift? Try our new relaxation mode. Another's comes crackled with a cheerful voice. Don't forget to stretch. Prolonged combat stance may cause stiffness. The soldiers ripped out their comes in anger. Yet the messages kept coming from the walls, the floors, even the air scrubbers. All built with Terran parts. All still running old peacetime software. Back on Earth, people watched the attack in horror. But they also saw the glitches. And for the first time, they realized the Virith weren't just using human tech. They were trapped by it. Admiral Reyes called an emergency meeting. We can't beat them with guns, she said. But maybe we can beat them with their own ships. Engineers across Earth sprang into action. They couldn't hack the Virith system directly. Those were locked down now. But they could still send signals through old service channels, using codes left in the original Terran designs. In Nairobi, a team of programmers wrote a simple patch, Safety Protocol Alpha. It wouldn't destroy ships. It would just remind them of what they were built for. In Shanghai, students rebuilt old cargo drone controllers. They didn't need weapons, just a signal strong enough to reach Virith space. And in a quiet lab on Luna, Dr. Aris Thorne worked on something stranger. A voice message. Not a threat. Not a warning. Just a human voice, calm and kind, saying, you don't have to do this. The plan was risky, but it was all they had. Meanwhile, the Virith moved on Mars. The red planet held 3 human colonies. Thousands of lives. The Virith fleet formed a wall of black metal in the sky, preparing to bombard the surface. But then, something strange happened. One by one, Virith ships began to shut down their weapons. Not all at once. Just small things. A targeting computer would freeze. A missile bay would lock itself for safety. A fighter would suddenly veer off course, claiming low fuel even though its tanks were full. On the bridge of a Virith destroyer, Sub-Commander Gel watched in disbelief as her main cannon powered down. A message scrolled across her screen. Warning, friendly life signs detected below. Weapon discharge may harm civilians. Please confirm override. She stared at the words. Friendly? She whispered. There are enemies. But the system wouldn't fire without her voice command. And when she opened her mouth to give the order, she hesitated. Down on Mars, a human child looked up at the sky, clutching a toy rover. She didn't know war. She only knew fear. Gel saw the feed from a surface camera, just for a second. The child's face. The trembling hands. She closed her eyes. Cancel fire, she said softly. Not all Virith ships obeyed. Some commanders smashed their consoles. Others rewrote the code with brute force. But enough ships paused, just long enough. That delay gave the Concord time to act. Fleet groups from the SARM Collective, the Cypher Alliance, and even former rivals of humanity moved into position. They didn't attack the Virith. They just formed a shield around Mars, broadcasting a single message. Stand down. This war is based on a lie. Corvex raged. Traitors, he shouted. The humans have tricked you too. But the evidence was spreading. Across the galaxy, species that once ignored Earth now studied Terran tech logs. They saw the truth. Humanity had never built a warship. Not one. Every piece of the Virith fleet could be traced to a peaceful origin. And then came the Luna incident. Virith Dreadnought, the largest ship ever built, had broken from the main fleet. Its commander, a hardliner named Vrax, refused to believe the Concord reports. He aimed straight for Luna, Earth's closest colony, home to over 200,000 people. But the Dreadnought, SAI, still ran on Terran core software. As it approached, A team of teen engineers from Luna Academy, barely 16 years old, sent a simple signal. Not a virus. Just a factory reset command, disguised as a routine update. The ship's systems accepted it. Lights flickered. Weapons went dark. The ship's massive engines slowed to idle. Then, over every speaker, inside every helmet, a gentle voice said, "Welcome back. Your ship has been restored to safe settings. Would you like to play a game? Or perhaps listen to a story?" The Virith crew stood frozen. On the bridge, alarms turned into lullabies. Weapon displays changed to cartoons. The ship's HFY began reading a children's book aloud. Once upon a time, in a quiet corner of the galaxy, there lived a little engine who only wanted to help. Rack screamed, smashing controls. But it was too late. The ship was harmless. News of the lullaby dreadnought spread fast. Suddenly, humans weren't monsters. They were strange, clever, dangerous, not because they fought, but because they understood. The Concord made its move. They declared the Virith hegemony a threat to galactic stability, not because of humanity, but because of their own lies and violence. For the first time, the Concord voted to stand with Earth, not as saviors, not as masters, but as allies. Human ships, though few, were now escorted by fleets from a dozen species. Supplies poured in. Engineers from across the galaxy came to help, not to fight, but to fix. And the humans? They kept doing what they did best, building. On a captured Virith scout ship, a human technician replaced a broken shield generator with a spare from a Terran freighter. The Virith pilot watched, stunned. "You're helping us?" "We're helping everyone," the technician replied. "Even you." Back on Earth, fear began to fade. Not because the danger was gone, but because people realized they weren't alone. And more than that, they realized their greatest strength wasn't in what they could destroy, but in what they could create. And what it could become, even in enemy hands. The Virith war machine was still powerful. But it was also confused. Its heart was built by humans who believed in peace. And that heart refused to beat for war. In the skies above Mars, a Virith fighter drifted near a human rescue shuttle. Neither fired. After a long silence, the Virith pilot opened the channel. "Your machines. They talk too much," he said. The human pilot laughed. "Yeah, but they're good listeners too." A pause. Then, "Do you have tea?" "We have chamomile," came the reply. "It's calming." The two ships drifted side by side, sharing warmth in the cold void. The war was not over. But something new had begun. Not victory. Not surrender. But understanding. And in that moment, humanity proved once again they didn't need to win a war to change the galaxy. They only needed to remind it of what peace looked like. The truth bomb. The war had stopped, but not ended. Virith ships still floated in human space, engines idling, weapons silent. Earth held its breath. The Concord demanded answers. And so, the galaxy called for a meeting. Not in secret, not in shadows, but in the grand chamber of Viridia Prime, where the war had begun. This time, humanity was invited. Dr. Elena Cho, Earth's ambassador, stepped onto the platform in a simple gray suit. She was not a soldier. She was a teacher, a historian, a woman who believed words could do more than weapons. Behind her stood Admiral Reyes and young Ravi Mehta, the engineer who had first spoken to a Virith ship. Across the chamber, High Marshal Kor Vex sat with his war council. His armor was scratched, his eyes tired. He still believed in his cause, but doubt had crept in like rust on steel. The Concord speaker, an ancient being of woven light named Orin, raised a hand. "Today, we seek truth," Orin said. "Not blame, not victory, truth." Then Dr. Cho stepped forward. She didn't shout. She didn't accuse. She simply held up a small data chip. "This," she said, "is a warranty tag. It was found inside a Virith plasma cannon, the kind that destroyed our outpost near Jupiter." She projected an image. The tag read, "Terran Orbital Systems, Model TR-8 Cargo Module. Approved for civilian use only. Void if weaponized." A murmur rose through the chamber. Next, she showed logs. Not secret files. Public ones. Shipping records from 10 years ago. "Your people came to us," she said, looking at Corvex. "You asked for help building your first space stations. We gave you kits, instructions, friendly AI to guide your workers. You signed agreements saying you'd use them for peace." She played a recording. It was a Virith official years younger thanking Terran engineers for teaching them how to fix air filters and grow food in space. Then came the final proof, a full schematic of a Virith dreadnought side by side with a Terran Star Hauler 5000 freighter. Every part matched. The engine cores, from mining tugs. The bridge layout, copied from a colony supply ship. Even the metal in the hull plates bore batch numbers from Earth's Luna shipyards. "The Warfleet you used to threaten us," Dr. Cho said quietly, "was built from tools we sold you to carry food, water, and children's school supplies." Silence. Corvex stood suddenly. "Lies!" he roared. "You hid your true power. You let us think you were weak." "No," Dr. Cho said. "We were weak. We still are. Our fleet is made of scrap and hope. But you saw strength in our kindness and called it deception. You took our gifts and forged them into swords, and now blame us for the wounds they made." She turned to the chamber. "We never wanted war. We never knew you. But you built your fear into a monster and named it humanity." The truth settled like dust after a storm. Some Virith officers looked at their hands as if seeing them for the first time. Others wept. Sub-Commander Gel stood and removed her helmet. "My ship still plays music when I'm tired," she said in a small voice. "It reminds me of home. Not battle, home." Then came the moment no one expected. From the back of the chamber, a Virith warlord named Vrax, the same one who had tried to bomb Luna, stepped forward. His face was hard, but his voice shook. "I almost killed children," he said, "because I believed a story. Not facts. A story." He reached into his belt and pulled out a small Terran drone, a maintenance bot he'd taken as a trophy. It was dented, but still working. It beeped softly. "I kept this," he said, "to remind me of the enemy's cunning." He looked at Dr. Cho, but it kept reminding me of my daughter. It sings her favorite song. He placed the drone on the floor. It rolled forward, lights blinking, and began to play a soft lullaby in TERRN. No one moved. Then, from the human side, Ravi Mehta walked over. He knelt and gently tapped the drone's casing. "Battery's low," he said, "but I can fix it." Vrax stared at him. "Why would you help me?" "Because broken things can be fixed," Roddy said. "People too." In that moment, something broke inside Corvex. Not his pride, his certainty. He had built his life on the belief that strength meant domination. But here stood a species that gave away its best tools and still stood tall when attacked. They didn't fight back with hate. They fought back with truth. And the Concord speaker rose. "The Virith hegemony has acted on false belief. But the fault is not only theirs. We all ignored humanity. We called them primitive. We never asked what they truly were. Orin turned to the humans. You gave the galaxy tools for peace, and some turned them to war. That is not your shame. It is ours." Then came the offer that Earth would not be punished. Instead, the Concord proposed a new law. No species could weaponize Terran technology without direct human oversight. and humanity would be granted a permanent seat on the Concord Council, not as a warrior, but as a builder. A guardian of peace-tech.KOR did not speak for a long time. Then, slowly, he removed his command badge and placed it on the floor. "I declared war on ghosts," he said, "and in doing so, became the monster I feared." He looked at Dr. Cho. "Will you help us unbuild this war?" She nodded. "We build things to last, but we also know how to take them apart carefully." After the meeting, something small but powerful happened. Vrax, the warlord, sat with Ravi Mehta in a quiet corner. Ravi showed him how to replace the drone's power cell. "See? Just twist here," he said. Vrax's claws fumbled, but he tried. When the drone beeped happily and played the lullaby again, the big Virith warrior closed his eyes. A single tear traced down his armored face. Outside the chamber, news spread across the galaxy. On Earth, people watched the broadcast in silence. Then, slowly, they began to cheer, not for victory, but for something rarer. Understanding that the war was over. Not with fire, not with surrender, but with a simple act. One species admitting it was wrong, and another forgiving before it was even asked. And high above, in the silent dark, Virith ships began powering down their weapons for the last time. Their as, still running Terran software, sent one final message to their crews. "Thank you for choosing peace. Would you like to plant a tree today?" The architects of peace years passed. The stars did not change, but the worlds beneath them did. Where Virith warships once gathered in angry fleets, now floated peaceful construction yards. Humans and Virith worked side by side, welding hulls, testing solar arrays, and teaching young engineers how to tell the difference between a cargo drone and a missile launcher. It was slow work. Trust did not grow overnight, but it grew. Earth was no longer a quiet backwater. It had become something new, a place others came to learn. Not how to fight, but how to build. Human engineers traveled across the galaxy, not with weapons, but with toolkits, blueprints, and open-source software that ran on kindness as much as code. On the newly terraformed moon of Kethra 7, once a barren rock, green fields now stretched under twin suns. The air was thin but clean, the soil rich with nutrients shipped from Mars. Here, a school stood not made of steel and fear, but of recycled ship panels and solar glass. Its name was simple, the Builders Academy. Inside, a human girl named Lena and a Virith boy named Tarn sat at a workbench. They were both 10 years old. Lena had dark curly hair and grease on her cheeks. Tarn had smooth, dark skin and 6 careful fingers. Between them sat a half-built solar harvester, its frame gleaming in the afternoon light. "Your turn," Lena said, handing Tarn a torque wrench. Tarn hesitated. Last week, he'd tightened the bolt too hard and cracked the panel. "I'll break it," he muttered. "No, you won't," Lena said. "Just listen to the click. The tool tells you when to stop." Tarn took a breath and turned the wrench. Click. Perfect. The harvester hummed to life, its panels unfolding like flower petals. A soft voice came from its core. "Installation complete. Would you like to plant trees next?" Tarn smiled. It was the same voice that used to play lullabies on his father's old warship. Now it helped grow forests. Outside, watching from the shade of a young oak, stood Admiral Mara Race, retired now, though no one really believed she'd ever stop working. Beside her was Sub-Commander Gel, now Director of Peace Engineering for the Virith Reconciliation Council. "They learn faster than we ever did," Gel said, her voice warm. Reyes nodded. "They don't carry our anger, just our tools." And that was the truth. The war had left scars on planets, on families, on memories. But the next generation didn't see enemies. They saw partners. They saw problems to solve, not battles to win. Across the galaxy, the change spread. Former Earth dreadnoughts were stripped of weapons and turned into floating hospitals. Old fighters became courier ships for medicine and books. Even the AI that once calculated bombing runs now helped farmers predict weather on distant worlds. Humanity's influence grew, not through force, but through usefulness. Every species that used Terran tech found something unexpected. It was designed to help, not control. It asked questions like, "Are you safe?" and "Do you need help?" It remembered birthdays. It played music when things got too quiet. Some called it foolish. Too soft for a hard universe. But more and more, others called it wise. On Earth, cities no longer built walls. They built bridges, real ones, and the kind that connected minds. Museums displayed old Virith armor not as trophies, but as warnings. Schools taught children how to code not just machines, but empathy. And in Geneva, the old war room where Reyes had once prepared for doom was now a classroom. Children from 20 species sat in a circle, learning how to design a water purifier from scrap metal. The teacher, a former Virith warlord who once swore to burn Earth to ash, he didn't speak of war anymore. He spoke of pipes, filters, and clean water for villages. One day, a young student asked, "Why do humans share everything? Don't you worry someone will use it against you again?" The old warlord paused. Then he smiled. Because the best way to stop a weapon is to make sure it was never built to be one. Back on Kethra 7, the school bell chimed. Lena and Tarn packed their tools. "Tomorrow we build the rain collector," Lena said. "Can I bring my sister?" Tarn asked. "She's good with circuits." "Of course," Lena said. "Everyone's welcome." They walked home together under the orange sky. Behind them, the solar harvester began pumping water into a small garden. Tiny sprouts pushed through the soil: carrots, peas, and something new. A flower no one had seen before, born from earth seeds and Virith soil. In the distance, a ship landed softly on the pad. It bore the markings of the Galactic Concorde, but its hull was made of Terran alloy, and its landing gear unfolded with a familiar voice. "Touchdown successful. Would you like assistance unloading?" From the ramp stepped Elder Tavik of the Sarn Collective, now the Concorde's chief architect of peace. He carried no weapons, only a data slate filled with plans for a new school on a world that once feared humans. He found Reyes and Gel by the oak tree. "The council approved it," he said. "Your design, simple, strong, full of windows." Reyes laughed. "Good. Let the light in." Tavik looked at the children playing near the garden. "You know," he said quietly, "when the Virith declared war, we all thought it was the end of something, but it was the beginning." Gel nodded. They came to destroy the builders of their doom, only to become apprentices of the species that builds everything. No one spoke for a moment. The wind rustled the leaves. The harvester hummed. Somewhere, a child laughed, and high above, in the endless dark, 1,000 ships old and new, human and alien, sailed not to war, but to work. They carried seeds, tools, teachers, and hope. Their engines glowed not with fire, but with purpose. Humanity had never sought to rule the stars. They only wanted to help others reach them. And in the end, that was enough.